my. What a peculiar place to have a party.
This is Joker.
And this is Mad Fish here.
This is the first episode that's going to air. We're hoping all you people out there like our advertising strategies, no use of the internet. It's a whole new way of operating. Alright, we're going to start off right away. You traveled down this rabbit hole, and this is where we're going to start. A book I just read. It's called The War of Art.
The War of Art.
The War of Art, okay. It's by this dude. He's a screenwriter. His name's Steven Pressfield. And he wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance, which is like not that well known of a movie. But regardless, he writes a book it's mainly about how you overcome procrastination. But what he calls it is resistance. It's a force in the universe. It's a force in all our minds. And basically, it's the little voice inside your head that tells you to not follow long-term goals, not to like take any action towards it. So like sitting down 4 hours to write or to work on a paper or something like that if you go to college or something, and instead follow those short-term gratification routes, right? So like pretty much anything on the internet, like checking your Facebook or like sending a quick text message. And it's a pretty interesting book, and he talks a lot about how the more important the thing is that the more important our call to action is, the more resistance there'll be that we feel in ourselves and also from other people.
So an example of resistance in today's life for me would have been when I decided that I wanted to take a nap in the sun instead of figuring out my class schedule for next semester.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and I think I don't know, there are little things like that, but it's also the bigger things that you know, those things you always put off, or like some type of avenue of life that you would want to take. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a writer, but like they don't write, or I want to be a painter, but I don't paint. Like I know a lot of times I told people like, oh, I want to write, but like I never wrote before. And then I started writing, and it's like way different than anything. It's like I talked a lot about Buddhism and stuff like that, and I took a lot of courses on Buddhism, but I never meditated until recently when I went to one of those 10-day meditation courses, and that's why. It's like because I wanted to actually take action towards it, but it's really hard to do that.
So that was you overcoming your resistance.
Yeah. And the thing is about resistance, and this is what he outlines in the book, is that at any moment, at any time in your whole life, you can change it, and that's kind of what happened to me. I mean, I didn't change my entire life, but I had always made meditation something I would want to do, but someone just told me about this free meditation organization, and I went online that same day, just applied without even thinking. I was like, I'm just going to apply. I applied, and then 2 days later I got in, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'm going, you know?
So what does it take then to overcome this resistance since you've done it?
It's just will. Honestly, you just have to you just do it. You just have to ignore all the different rationalizations, because that's the thing, is they say that there are so many rationalizations you can make, and that's like one of the key tools of resistance. Is like, you know, all those things in your head, you're like, oh, I really should be doing this, or I really should be doing that, you know? Like I started writing, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I need to read a book on writing, and then I'll write, you know? Just like get away from actually writing, and no matter how reasonable your excuses are, they're still excuses.
But you know yourself when you're making excuses, or do they just come subconsciously?
No, I think you might not consciously recognize it, but your body definitely responds to it. I think you know when you're making excuses. Like, no matter how rational something can be as to why you should do something, you'll always know what your real reason is behind. Like, your reasons aren't your reasons, I think, most of the time. I think most of the time there's something deeper than that you're kind of hiding, but you're just going to do it anyway, you know?
Yeah, so you got to just be really honest with yourself.
Which is extremely difficult.
So just kind of stop and think for a little bit and just be like, all right, this is what I'm going to do, and I can't just keep making excuses, because that's what I'll tend to do, and I'm just going to do it. Yeah.
And then you're going to end up making excuses, and then it's going to beat you, which is depressing. And sometimes I use the excuse, like, oh, it's going to beat me anyway, so I might as well just not do it, you know?
Yeah.
And keep going.
So do you have a story of it beating you? Like, an example of where you've been beaten?
Well, the thing what you realize is that you and everyone else has been beaten your whole life by it, and you just could never really put your finger on what it was. You know, that little, like when I was at the meditation course, I would find almost any excuse not to meditate. Like, oh, I just want 5 more minutes of sleep. I just want more, you know. I just I'll meditate later, you know. I'll meditate when I, like, after this whole thing. This is too much meditation for me. It's not for me. I'm just going to go home, and then I'll do it then. And then when you get your finger on it, you realize that not only is it something everyone deals with, but it's also a useful tool to decipher when things are important. You know, because when things are when you're resisting them the most, and you're gonna think like, oh, well, then I'm just gonna do everything that I hate. No, that's not really what it means. It's like when you feel like you should be doing something, and then everything in your body and other people around you are telling you not to do it, then that means that that's like the thing that you should do. You should try it out. You should like go towards it.
So you should step out of your comfort zone, in essence.
Yeah, resistance is meant on keeping you in your comfort zone. Resistance is, what he says is of the ego. It's of safety, you know? And a lot of people will try to pull you back too. He says that the more important the call to action is, the more you'll feel resistance from other people too. Because they'll sense you're breaking away from it, and they feel uncomfortable with themselves being tied down by it, and then they'll try and grab you in.
So this is a phenomenon that's very well related to others. It's not just internal.
No, it's not internal. I mean, I think it's universal. And I think everyone grabs at other people and gets grabbed at. You know, it's kind of like a vicious cycle.
Until you break it, that is, because you break it once you stop grabbing other people. But then have you really broken it if other people are still dragging you back?
Yeah, but I think I don't know. I think it's a choice to be dragged back. You know, you make yourself into a victim, and that's one of the things that resistance does to you. Is it makes you feel like a victim, like you're kind of like you don't have any control over anything, and that's one of the excuses you get. You're like, oh, well, I can't write because like I gotta go pick up my mom because she's nagging me or something. Like, this is a totally different example, but my step uncle recently got rid of his Facebook. And, well, actually, he recently got it back. But I was asking him, because I don't have one either. I was like, oh, why'd you do it? He's like, oh, it's just so annoying, you know? It was just kind of the same reason I got rid of it. He's like, it's so annoying. I was on there all the time, and it wasn't annoying. It was waste of time, you know? Which isn't to say that Facebook is, by itself, a terrible thing, you know? It's obviously a very powerful tool, but he was abusing it. So he got rid of it. And then I'm like, oh, why'd you get it back? And he's like, my mom was nagging me about it, and she was saying that she couldn't show pictures of me to her friends. And I was like, that's why you changed your whole, like, and basically you would kind of like change a lot of your life by getting one of those things back, because it's like a second life online, you know? And he said that was the reason why, and he was like blaming it on his mom. I was like, dude, come on, dude, that's you. You're letting all that stuff get to you.
So basically what you're saying is he chose to change his life based on his mother. Based on an aspect of his mother's personality.
Yeah, and he said, but he located why he did it in her instead of in him.
So that was using her as an excuse.
Yeah, which is what resistance does. I don't know. Do you have trouble with procrastination?
Well, I have trouble with simple things like, shit, I just gotta go and study for my exam in a week, and like there's something in my brain that's just kind of accepted that I won't do it until the very last minute. And so it's just this kind of like weird sense of relaxation, but with a bit of tension at the back of my mind that goes on, but like my body's completely accepted it. So like it'll be Monday, I'll be alright, you know what, like I could study for it, but I mean there's really no point. It'd be Tuesday, Wednesday, then Thursday, and Friday night, and then
was there a conflict in your head like a week before you're like, I really should do this?
Yeah. Like a week before that, it's like, oh, you got to study for this one. You got to get yourself to it. You gotta like you just get the assignment. You just got to start working on it. And then I get it, and it's like, well, you know, like I'm tired from working out, and it'd probably be better to get a little sleep, so I'm rested and more able to do it tomorrow.
So do you actually sleep?
Sometimes, but see, it's just like it's almost like a way of life that's come, but I've actually like started breaking that a little bit sometimes, and it's extremely rewarding. Yeah. When like you study for something the day it's assigned, and then you're ahead. Yeah. It's like you actually have enough time to do things.
Yeah. And what do you feel like when you decide you're gonna not do it? What do you fill your time with?
Just random stuff. So I don't think about it.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's funny because you say, you say, I need to get some sleep or I need to do something, but then you just end up really doing nothing. That's what I found with me. It's like, I'll procrastinate and then I'll just do nothing. Like, I know of a lot of people who say they spend hours, I mean, not hours, but they spend a lot of time, like, on YouTube or Facebook, and that's, like, one of the forms of it, you know?
I'm not productive towards any other significant aspect of my life.
Yeah.
Except maybe my sex life, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, no, he says that, in the book, he talks about sex as a way of acting out your resistance, but he says that you know if sex is motivated by resistance if afterwards it feels really hollow. Which I don't think has ever really happened to me. I don't know about you.
No, it hasn't. It usually, I like doing that because it just completely manages to take your mind off of everything else for that moment until you wake up the next morning. You're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, well, I find that it just keeps me up at night, you know?
It does.
Just stay up. I stay, like, it's just so fun, you know, and then you're doing it all night, and then it's like you have to get up in the morning, and you're like, I only got like 5 hours of sleep because I was having sex the whole night, you know?
Well, 5 hours of sleep is on a good night.
Yeah, but you know, the thing is, I'm like complaining about, I'm having too much sex, you know, I bet you so many people are like, fuck you, dude, I'd rather have 5 hours of sleep than like 10 hours in a masturbation session, you know?
Exactly, but would you really rather do that?
I think it would just be easier if you managed your time better and you had sex earlier in the night. But you have so many things to do. That's
exactly. It's just, I mean, you can't just lay down next to an attractive girl and sleep, can you?
It'd be hard.
It'd be hard, yeah.
It's difficult. I think that's the most powerful one. The sex drive thing is...
It's kind of like we're still completely driven by it today.
Yeah.
Like, it drives everything, really.
Yeah. No, we like to think that like we have all these morals and all these different things about all these various, but really I think a lot of times we just want to fuck each other.
We do. It might be shallow, but I think it's just like almost going back to our animal instinct, which really makes us be in the moment. Because if you think about it, sex is the only time a lot of people in today's society are really in the moment.
No, I think it's in the shower and when you're on the toilet.
Not sex.
No, I mean, sex is one thing, yes, I agree. Sex is one of them. But a lot of people, like I have one friend who is he's really like OCD and caught up in all these different things, and I don't think he really takes that much time to think. But he's like, dude, when I'm in the shower, I have the best thoughts. It's like, yeah, because you're just in the shower. Because you can't bring your iPhone in the shower. I mean, I guess you could take an iPhone while you're taking a shit. So, like, that kind of has been ruined, the toilet thing. But most people don't do anything while they're on the toilet. But, like, when you're in the shower, dude, you can't do anything else. I guess when you're having sex, you really can't do anything else. Sex requires a lot of
Well, I mean,
focus.
it depends on the person. Now you get the obvious, like, sometime in the middle of sex, oh, shit, I gotta answer this text message real fast.
I don't ever think that.
Well, maybe not you, but I can name a few people that that's happened to.
Really?
Yes.
They must have not been having very good sex.
No, not at all. But that's because they weren't in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, I say that there needs to be, like, a time during the day where you just turn off all distractions and just like sit there. And even like if you're bored, just be bored. Like I feel like we're also just like completely foreign to the concept of boredom today. Like
boredom is totally unacceptable.
It's like I'm bored. Oh, let me just whip out my iPhone and play Angry Birds.
It's really hard to not do that though. It's like why not?
I know.
You feel like because that's the other thing is like. That is a short-term gratification instead of like a long-term peace of mind. Like peace of mind and like all that stuff is like the long-term goals and rewards are so hard to motivate yourself with, you know, because they're so far away, and they seem so abstract in the moment. But like whipping out your phone is like a quick fix to really just like take you out of everything.
Exactly.
You know, so why wouldn't you do that? You know.
But is it acceptable to do that?
What does that even mean though? Of course it is. Everyone does it.
Yeah, but does that mean something is acceptable?
It's not acceptable. Is different than I would say effective. Is it effective?
Is it acceptable from like a human health standpoint of the soul?
Is it effective towards? No, I don't think it is. It's not.
Because I think you need to be bored sometimes. Like it's a natural part of life.
Yeah, I think it's with our generation, with the younger kids. With all that stuff, they expect to be entertained all the time. You know, that every moment is going to be filled with something. Every moment is super important. you know. And then I think we're all gonna get older and like start fight clubs, you know, like Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Because he says, you know, you grow up and then you get told that you're very special, then you learn that you're not, and everyone gets very pissed off. I feel like that might happen. A lot of pissed off people.
Well, that's why people go into drugs. That's why people fall back and escape society somehow. It's because they think they're awesome and special and spoiled, and then...
I don't know. It depends on what drug you're talking about. Because, like, alcohol, personally, for me, drinking is, like... When I drink, it's one of those things with the reasons. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to have a good time, you know? But really, I'm just, like, doing it a lot of times because other people are doing it, and I feel like I'd be really left out if I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And why do you do it? Also because you're bored? Maybe?
No, it's just, like, you feel very alone, I think. It's hard to, like, really, like, be alone while... Or, like, not to be alone, but to do something that everyone around you isn't doing. And everyone's, like, having a really good time or, like, pretends to. The thing is, there's a really dark side of alcohol, too. I've seen some really dark things.
Oh, yes.
You see some really dark things. People, like, dark things that people say. Dark things that you say. They come out, and you're just like, why are we all drinking?
Yeah. That's just, like... Because it's just... It kind of kills that little part of your brain that dictates what comes out and goes
Your
in.
filter.
Like, your filter. Both ways. Both out and in.
Your inhibitions, yeah.
And I think it has an extremely dark side, but you also do have a point. It's like, have you ever tried being in a room full of drunk people and not being drunk yourself?
I mean, I've done it a lot.
It's borderline unbearable.
Yeah, as much as I say that I give in, my friends know me for not drinking, which is, I think is funny, because whenever I drink, I feel super guilty.
Exactly.
But yeah, you sit there and you're just like, oh, dude, and everyone's like, oh, dude, let's go out for like why don't you be adventurous or something, you know, why don't you drink and like have fun? I'm like, it's not adventurous, we do this all the time, and everyone does the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people were throwing up at the end, you know, and some people have like bared their souls to me. And it's like, one dude was telling me about his, like, parents' divorces and stuff, and, like, how not cool it was, and how he, like, discovered a lot of it, and, like, dude, it was fucked up. I don't know, and I've heard, you hear stories about kids dying and stuff like that, and, like, you see freshmen are the worst. You see freshmen on campus, and you're just like, oh my god, you need to... There should be a rule where freshmen can't drink for, like, the first 3 weeks of school. Yeah,
because you can pick one out. It's like they're walking around with a freaking flag above their head saying, I'm a freshman, I'm a freshman, I'm a freshman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's for guys and for girls. I mean, girls are even more, like, under the prey of it, you know, but I just think, dude, because when you get in a situation where you're, like, really new, you know, you just kind of, like, in safety's term, you know, you feel like kind of like what I was feeling, you know, you feel a little alone, you feel a little lost. And immediately what you're looking for is to fit in, and like that's the cohesive factor, which is so sad.
Yeah,
you know,
it is, because you can always later use it as an excuse. It's like, oh, dude, remember when you like did this? Oh, I was drunk. It's just like it's like a comfort zone that you're in. It's like being drunk makes it an excuse for you to be able to do anything.
Yeah, but it also just. I think it's like fitting in is the biggest thing.
Yeah, it kind of brings in like an area of familiarity. It's just like, oh, I'm familiar with this because this is what I used to do, and it kind of like loosens me up, and it
does loosen you up though. I mean, it is nice. Like you get to be able to talk to people in a different capacity.
I mean, in fact, in high school, when we used to drink at first, we used to call it confidence. It's like, oh, dude, you trying to get confident before the dance tonight?
That's funny. They call it spirits, too.
Spirits, yeah.
That is a good term. Get confident.
Yeah, man. You're trying to get confident for the party?
Yeah, but then some people get too confident.
Yeah, too confident. Too confident.
It's not confidence based in anything.
No.
You know, it's not like it gets you closer to any sort of reality. It gets you further away. Yeah. Well, one of my teachers said that. He told this really fucked up story. It was my Buddhism teacher, and he was talking about the Four Noble Truths, or I don't know what he's talking about. But he's talking about how one of the rules of monks is that they can't get intoxicated, right? Don't get intoxicated, which doesn't actually. Some people you can drink, just don't get drunk. You know. But anyway, he says like the reason why is because it's not that when you get drunk that you lose sight of yourself. It's that you're totally focused on yourself, and that you're totally narrowed in, and you totally lose track of everything else. Like think of a drunk driver. Like a drunk driver isn't like going like, woo, whatever. You know, the drunk driver is focused on the road.
Yeah.
And they're like focused on every little thing. And like same with people who, like whenever you get into the car and like you're like intoxicated or something, like people who are high, you know, they're like right there. They're like, I'm all focused, you know?
Yeah.
But he told this really terrible story, which isn't a real story, but it's kind of a hypothetical story. And he said that, like imagine you're going to a party, you get drunk, right? Before the party, and as you're walking in, you kind of like step over this girl who's on the front door steps, and she looks super depressed, but you don't notice, right? And you walk into the party and you see this girl, and you're like really into her, but like that's all you're focused on for the whole night, you know? It's just this one girl, and you're not focused on wherever you set your drink down or like whoever you bump into or anything like that. And this girl is super depressed, and she's surrounded by people just like you who are all focused on themselves, you know? And she just gets lost sight of, you know? And at the end of the party, everyone's walking out, and she gets bumped, and she falls down the stairs and hits her head and cracks her head open, you know? And she's bleeding everywhere. And then all people can think about is, like, how to, like, save their own ass, essentially. Or they just, like, forget about it because they're so focused on themselves. It's, like, a really terrible story.
Well, yeah, but that actually, like, happens in real life. Like, when someone in underage drinking parties gets too drunk and is, like, sick and about to die, the first thing... There's very few people that will just actually go out of their way, call an ambulance, and bring them to the hospital. The first thing they do is try to, like, revitalize themselves so they don't get their own asses into trouble.
I think a problem with ambulance, I mean, it's not a problem, but I mean, it's two sides of the coin, you know? You make it $500 to get an ambulance, people are going to be like, fuck, I don't want to pay $500. But at the same time, then you'd have everyone being like, ambulance, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I just heard this call. It was these cops arrested some kids with pot cookies, and then they ate them, and they didn't know how much was in it. And so there's this cop call. These people, they're radioing in a 911, and they're like, we're gonna die. Like, you have to send people. We overdose. They're like, what do you overdose on? Marijuana. And then he's like, I think my wife's dead. I think we're dead. We're dead. It's fucking ridiculous. But yeah, dude, I think it depends. I think that'd be an interesting rule if you had a campus where freshmen couldn't drink. Like, I was just thinking, like, maybe my fraternity would make it so freshmen couldn't drink the first 3 weeks of school. But that's, like, when you get all the freshmen to, like you, you know? Yeah. So, like, what do?
That should be hazing, not drinking.
Yeah. But, I don't know, it's like, with gun laws, you know? Like, you can't get a permit, like, the same day you order it. You have to wait 3 months, you know? It should be like that. So you should have to adjust to your new environment sober.
I agree with that, because then are you really building a true basis of your new environment if you do it drunk?
I don't know. The thing is, like, it's not the alcohol. Some people can handle their alcohol. Some people are totally fine with drinking. Like, I'm sure all the international kids would be really good with it, you know? But some kids just can't. And I think you just save those people and give them a new...
Yeah, and I think it's less about the drinking and more of, like, stepping out of your comfort zone. Because then, if you have alcohol, you're never really, truly just, like, fully stepping out of that comfort zone you have.
I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you never drink. And
exactly.
The drinking is that thing. You know, I think everyone's a little different.
Which is why you need to do that.
To take them... But some people just don't drink, and then maybe, like, drinking is their wild thing that they do. You know, you could see it that way.
So why stop drinking then, if that's the case?
I think because generally it's not effective.
So you should...
I just don't want to... I don't want to be too patronizing with trying to get people out of their comfort zone. You know, telling everyone they have to do one thing, and that's the best thing. Like, I think for this podcast, I don't think everyone's going to listen to, and that's fine. And I'm not going to force it upon people to listen to it, but, like, the people who end up listening to it are the people we would want to listen to it. The people who follow the random signs places, and then they're like, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. And then they go there. That's what it's for. You know, I don't think... I heard that when Obama was running for election, he said that there's... Yeah, I'm making up these numbers, but something like 1/3 of the country already agrees with me. Yeah. 1/3 of the country won't agree with me no matter what. And that third of the country that already agrees with him will agree with him no matter what. But there are a third of the people who are kind of in between, you know? And so I think that, like, we're going to go for, like, that first third, the third that already agree with us. Like, that's great. We want you guys to listen and contribute, maybe, like, tweet at us or some shit. And then the middle third are people who are kind of in between that might be getting. I think generally you get dragged away from things like this. Dragged away from this would be considered a distraction.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but and that's like that brings up another interesting point, as in like today, especially with the drinking, people just tend to go with like the status quo, like, whatever everyone else is doing. It's like there's very few people that like can actually like stand up to this. But because I feel like if you analyze like the college population the same way you analyze the country, there's going to be a third of the people or something like that will always be drinking. And then like a third of the people that will never be drinking, and then a third that
less than a third.
Yeah, that is for like 1 on 100. But and then there's that rest of the population that like can sway either way, right? And right now it's swaying heavily towards the side of the drinking.
Do you think malleability is a good thing?
Define malleability.
You know, like in the way that you interact with your life. I mean, like I was watching this Russian. It was like a Russian science fiction film. What was it called? Stalker. And the guy was saying that pliancy is a strength. That like it's not how strong you are in one suit and how well you're committed to that one thing. It's how flexible you are. That is a strength.
I completely agree with that, because there is like defining an absolute for like a wide population or for anything that's more than a few things it just doesn't work. Like there's millions of examples.
Everything
of that.
ain't for everybody.
Exactly. Which is why it's almost kind of sad today that people tend to flow with this sort of like mass hysteria.
Do you think it's natural though?
Well, for like a social people, yeah.
What do you mean?
Like for a being, like we'll put humans as animals that are social and interact socially, and like part of their gratification is being socially accepted, then it is natural.
Okay, so you're a biology major and stuff, right? So how, when you're reading about other species, if you're like we're kind of like that, and like you see like links between different ways how people act, how species act.
Well, I mean, there's very strong ones, from like basic ones like fish schooling together, how they like always hold together and always tend to do what everyone else does, to just like the interactions between primates.
Hold on, about the fish school thing. I saw a documentary on this. This is more to do with school or flocks of birds, but do fish do the same thing where they'll be going a certain direction and they'll turn their heads right into a certain direction, and then when exactly 51% of the fish are turned one direction, they'll all go that direction, like non-local communicating.
Well, I mean, it's an
do they do that?
It's an extremely similar thing, and the cues are slightly different than on birds, but the concept is the same. Like a school of sardines that's fleeing like a marlin, like you'll see them like on the Discovery Channel and stuff, how they like sway right and left and like do these crazy loops and then like split apart and grow back and then create a giant ball to like distract them. And it's just like, how the heck can they do that? It's just like almost they have like a sixth sense to do that. But yeah, it's just like they got this extrasensory thing of being in a group.
Do you think we have that?
I think we do have that, but at the same time, humans are not a true like schooling species. We're not like a 100% social species. We have like...
What if there were smaller groups of us? What if we didn't live in like huge populations where you can't know everybody, but if we lived in like packs of 100?
Well, still then, like it would be a much we're much too focused on ourselves in some certain amount. We each have too much of ourselves.
Is that natural?
That is natural, because it's become from the smaller group, right? Since we have been in smaller groups, like our decisions aren't like automatic. Like if you like the flock of birds and the fish, those are for things there were hundreds of birds or like a bunch of fish. But for humans, we've always grown in like little clans. So based on that, we've each like retained our own sense of individuality, and that's also has to do with the growth and development of our brains, and that has really like.
But our brains can't have changed that much over time. Like we've experienced great lengths great jumps in technology, all those different things, but our brains can't have evolved. I mean, we have, like, my brain hasn't changed fundamentally with the advent of the internet.
No.
You know, but the internet is a much more different lifestyle than when it wasn't around, because I can be all over the world. I can be talking to someone video face to face. I can do all these different things on the internet, all this different knowledge that was never really there. So what do you think, like, where is that? What is that? Is that a clash?
Well, here, the biggest leap that our brains ever took was when we were able to actually cook meat, because then we were able to process most of the protein from it, and that's when our brains really started growing.
Our brains.
Our brains.
Not our grains.
Not our grains. Our brains started growing.
Our grains grew later.
And so, yes, virtually, like, over the past...
Wait, so they didn't get protein out of it? Wait, what do you mean? They
well,
eat meat otherwise,
I know, but
right?
when you cook meat, you're able to extract, like, your body's able to process much more protein from it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's when our brains really started to grow a lot.
And they've seen that in, like, fossil records and shit.
Exactly. And so now, our bodies, as humans, like, biologically speaking, have been virtually unchanged over the past several millenniums since that step. But what they're doing more studies in now is how the brain develops, because obviously, like, the brain develops when you grow, right? So when you're a child, your brain is much different than when you're an adult.
But we don't know jack shit about the brain, right?
Well, basically, yes, but we're slowly getting to know more about it. But it's like how you grow actually has an impact to how your brain is shaped when you're an adult. So when you're a child, and if you're a child, like, seeing an iPad every day, your brain might make different connections, pathways, than
it's
if you're a child. If you're a child, just like
that's the thing about short-term gratification things is that, and the things he says about resistance is that if you give in to resistance, you're, like, twice as likely next time to give in. I mean, that's just a random number, but the point is that once you make that pathway, your brain's going to favor that pathway. I think it goes for your body too. Like, if you start getting a compensation pattern in your body because something's weak, you're going to keep going back to that, and things are going to get worse and worse and worse. But if you make stronger or different ones that are more linear, then you'll have a more quiet and balanced mind. Like, you got to work towards that. But I don't know. This documentary I watched said that, you know, the whole idea of survival of the fittest.
Yes.
That, like, Darwin didn't actually ever say that. Someone else said that about Darwin's work, but that Darwin's work, the most used word, besides probably, like, common words like the, is love, that he uses in his whole Origin of the Species, and that really we're geared to be in a group, that we're geared to love each other, that we're geared to, like, communicate in the same way that fish and deer do, or, like, birds and deer do when they're, like, democratic, and that we were talking about this the other day, the way that you can feel energies off people, you know, and that the idea that we fight, that fighting is natural to us, which I think a lot of people say, is that we're just, like, greedy and, like, by nature we're bad people. That's kind of a fallacy. And he talks about, like, PTSD, right? If we were geared to fight, why do people come back from war all fucked up? Shouldn't they be all happy? You know? But yeah, we think that we're supposed to, that competition is natural, that competition makes us better somehow. And I mean, I think some forms of competition do, that they fulfill us, but I think the kind of hierarchical competition is really not that natural. No,
it's not, because, I mean, like, look at it. I feel like fighting comes mainly from anger. Like, how many times that you're not angry do you just, like, want to fight for fun? I mean, there might be a few people that do that, but... And fighting isn't just physical fighting. Yeah, just, like, any, like, verbal fighting. I think, any coercion. Exactly. Nice word choice. Any way you're trying to bring someone else down. Yeah, coercion. Yeah, dude. Bring other people down. Do you ever sense yourself doing that, and then you're just like, fuck, I'm such an asshole? I did at one point, but, like, now, since I began meditating and since I've like entered this kind of world of energy, so to call it, I've really noticed that I, like, catch myself, be like, oh, wait, no. Or you catch yourself, like, right after. I've gotten to the point where I catch myself right before, usually. Sometimes I'll still do it just because I'll be pissed off at something. Be like, you hurt me, so I gotta hurt you. But then there's other times where I begin, like, catching myself. And yes, maybe at the immediate point it's not gratifying, and you actually are kind of just, like, still pissed off, but like a few hours later, you feel much better than you would have if you just had screamed at that one person.
Yeah, dude, it's contagious. I find that when I see people from high school that I used to kind of rag on, or that I used to, I don't really get ragged on that much, but like if I used to rag on them, then I'll go back to doing it. And I just feel so terrible. It's terrible, dude. It's the worst. You feel so, I mean, and not probably nearly as terrible as the other person does when you do it to them, because you're just reinforcing old habit patterns that hopefully they've grown out of, you know? But, yeah, dude, it's hard sometimes to keep under control. Sometimes your control only lasts so long. Like, you'll have a conversation with someone, and it's just, like, they'll be saying shit that, like, pisses you off. Not pisses you off, but you totally disagree with. And then, like, you'll be calm, and then you'll snap. But the thing is, I think the longer you can go without snapping, the better it is.
Well, it depends. Because what if you snap at the beginning and it's like a small snap, whereas if you have someone who is slowly, like, bringing their hatred towards the Jews and then all of a sudden snaps into World War II. Like, you gotta see the extent, because some people... There's, like, different ways to, like, cope with that. It's either you kind of keep bearing it, and then you snap, and it could be a big snap, or you, like, accept it. You're just like, okay, I see where this is. You feel that emotion, and you just don't react to it. But
it's hard.
It's the hardest thing to do.
Dude, but easier said than done.
It's the one path to the light side.
Yeah, and the thing is, in this book, the guy says that criticism, you dole out most criticism, which you like envy-driven criticism, which I would consider criticism that comes out of nowhere, or that is kind of unprompted, you know. Or when you say, like, oh, I'm gonna go do this, and someone's like, fuck you. You like I remember I was gonna I was gonna apply to this college in Utah called Deep Springs, which is like an all-male college on a farm where you like run a farm and shit, and like there's little to no internet or electricity, and you're just running it yourself. And it's like 2 years. It's supposed to be pretty crazy. You like get up at 4 a.m. every morning to milk the cows or whatever, you know. So it'd be quite the fucking experience.
Yeah,
but I told
the comfort.
I told my sisters that I was thinking about doing it. You know, I was like, oh yeah, and I was like, I might apply to this place. And then like randomly, we're in the car one day, and she's like, yeah, Lewis wants to go to the gay college and be gay or something. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like, where did that come from? You know, and like, but he says in the book that really what envy-driven criticism is one, it's a form of resistance, and from that you're feeling, and that they're noticing in you that you're overcoming it. So really, it's just a compliment. You know,
exactly.
When people are coming after you, when they go out of their way to come after you, you really rattle their cage a little bit, because you have shown a new way of living that they are not yet capable of getting to. You know, that they want to get to. Obviously, they want to get to. That's why they're going after you. Yeah. But they want to. If they're not happy, they're fucking dragging you down.
Exactly. Like, I'm not ready. You're not ready.
Yeah, dude. And he says, like, the closer you get to your goal, the more resistance you're gonna feel.
And have you ever encountered a person that might, like, almost inadvertently bring you down, but it looks like their heart is in the right place?
Yes. Oh, dude, that's the
the hardest to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. You're like, oh, they oh my god, dude. They mean well. No, they don't. They don't mean well, dude. They're trying to bring you down. They're trying to like get all your attention on them, so you're not gonna do anything. Exactly. Because they're helpless. That's what it means. Is that and you're like, oh yeah, they're helpless. And you're like, yeah, and they're trying to spread it to everyone, and it's like, and they clearly have a lot of power if they're bringing you into it, and they're bringing everyone.
And that's
into
what they feed off of.
Yeah, they do. Oh my god! And you're like, oh, just do it this once. Just do it this once. No, you'd be appeasing that person.
Exactly.
It's like Hitler, dude. It's just like fucking Hitler. That's actually what's like. Like, oh, just do it this once. And it's like, no, if you do it that once, oh my god, my sisters are the worst at this, dude. And people are like trying to get me to do shit for them. Like my parents will come and be like, just do this one thing for them. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this one thing for them, because if I do, then they're going to come back with a vengeance later. You know? Exactly. It's just so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, the sneaky ones are almost the ones that get you the most. Yeah. Because it kind of gives you just more confidence. Like, like they're trying so hard, but...
Yeah, it's like, oh, they love you. They love you. And, you know, and just because something says that it's love or something, like you gotta nitpick through every little thing. You gotta nitpick through everyone's words and see what the real reasons are behind them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like we hope that people who are listening will nitpick through. We don't want people to think that we think everything we say is just like dogma and shit. Like,
no, most of
if
the
you
things.
there's probably a lot of bullshit on here. But if you like 75% of it, like that 75% of it, question the other 25% of it. Question all of it.
If you like 10% of it and hate 90%, that's still 10%. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, we're glad that you like those things, but you just gotta like go deeper than the surface. I know I was one example I use I was convincing my dad that I shouldn't do this one thing
Mm-hmm.
for my sister. Like, I was watching The Walking Dead. You know that is The Walking Dead on AMC. Okay, so pretty good. I'm a big zombie fan. So in The Walking Dead, there's one character named Daryl who's a total badass.
Yeah.
Right? You know Daryl?
Bow.
Crossbow. Yeah, he's got a crossbow, but he has a racist ass brother.
Mm-hmm.
His brother is the biggest dick in the world, and his brother, like, you think he's dead in season 1. He comes back in season whatever.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Whatever. Who cares? Okay, so he comes back, and he's joining. He's with some other group, and he fucks over the main group that Daryl's in, like the good group, the one you're all behind. And then he gets ostracized by the group he's in, and he's like, "All right, I want to be with you guys," and they're like, "No, we're not going to take you because you're an asshole." And then he's like, "All right, I'm leaving. Daryl, you coming with me?" And Daryl's like, "Fuck, it's my brother. Like, I have to go with him." So he goes with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while they're out there, his brother, they're trying to save some family that's getting attacked by zombies, and his brother starts like taking their shit or something, or like he's about to shoot one of them so they can take all their stuff, you know, really grisly stuff. And Daryl stops him, and at the end he's like, "I'm leaving, dude." He's like, "You can't leave me. You're leaving me." He's like, "I might be the one walking the way, but you're the one who left." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That like, the point is that just like physically, you might be leaving. Physically, you might be walking away, but sometimes people push you away.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you have no other choice. You gotta have. They talk about having empathy for other people. You gotta have empathy for yourself.
You do.
You know what I'm saying? You can't get all caught up in all
And that's
shit.
different than being self-centered.
Yeah, no, way different. It's like indifference. It's like equanimity towards all different types of people, including yourself. You can't view yourself as worse than other people or better, and like more deserving or less deserving.
Exactly. And that also like brings up like the notion of love. Like today, like when you say "I love you" to someone, are you really like meaning that you love them? It's just like there's a difference between
that's an animal.
That is. It's like is there really like there is a difference between love, like in the sense we use it a lot of the time, and like unconditional love. Like,
Unconditional love, like a lot of people when you they break up and then like, "I fucking hate that person." Like,
yeah.
Then you never love them.
Exactly.
If you hate them now, you never love them because you only love them when they're with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I mean, dude, I learned the "I love you" lesson when I was in 6th grade. I had a girlfriend, and we said "I love you" to each other. And even then, I was like, "Dude, this is dumb. Like, why am I saying this? Because I don't know what this means." You know?
Yeah.
And then I grew up, and as I got other girlfriends, they always wanted me to say it, and I was like, "No, I'm not gonna say it until like I know what it is, or like I always said like, oh, you'll know it when it happens," or something, you know, something like that.
That cliche line.
Yeah, and then they're like waiting. They're like, "Oh, what the fuck? Has it not happened yet?" You know, and then they get pissed, but it's whatever. No, but then, dude, then it just sneaks up on you. That's the craziest thing. Has it?
Sneaky once again.
Dude, it's so sneaky. It's the sneakiest thing, and then you don't even like. A lot of times, like I have my own dogmas that I follow, which I don't like. You know, I don't like following those things. But I had those things. So I was like, I'm not gonna like date anyone. I'm not gonna date anyone, and I'm not gonna get too attached to anyone. And I don't think I've become attached, but I'm definitely like in love with someone. You know what I mean? And like that just came out of nowhere, and I was like, fuck. It's like I don't. Damn it. And like that's how I knew too. I was like, "Oh, dude, this is legit." If I like am like frustrated about this, you know what I mean? If I was so against it and then it happened, like, fuck, I'm fucked. But you know, it's luck. It's actually really lucky too. You know, you talk about how like, oh, like there's a movie called Moonstruck where the parents ask like, they ask the main character at the end, they're like, "Oh, are you in love?" And it's like a big joke in the movie that being in love is torture.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, it is in some respects.
But yeah, no, dude, it is. But it's definitely it's definitely a good thing too. I mean, it has its ups and downs.
Yeah. So like the question is, how do you be in love while like showing unconditional love? It's like you can be in love with someone without like feeling and sharing unconditional love with them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of the times love starts with unconditional love, but then it
becomes
develops
a business
into
transaction.
Exactly.
That's what it is, dude. That's what a lot of things turn into.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude, it's horrible.
It's like, well, I did this for you. Why don't you do this for me?
Yeah, I read something that said, once you bring your love breakfast in bed, you're obligated to do it forever or something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started doing that too. I did it a couple times, and I was like, "Shit, dude, if I don't do it next
I'm a slave."
Yeah, but see, the thing that's good enough is I told her that, and she was chill.
Yeah,
that's how you know.
It's like another aspect of this is communication. It's like, how do you successfully communicate something to another human being? Like, I feel like sometimes we're just complete idiots at that.
I don't know. What do you think about lying? Because I had a friend. I was talking to my friend the other night about. He was talking about his girlfriend. He's like, yeah, sometimes she gets like insecure about something, like when she gets drunk, and then I just lie to her and we hook up. And he was like, because he made it sound so simple. He's like, I just lie like that one time, like those little times, and it makes everything go smoother.
Like,
grease the wheel.
What's an example of a lie? Like,
I don't know.
Like, I'm drunk too. Or
no. She was like, I don't know. What could she say? What's something someone could say to you when they're insecure, and you could say to them too. Like, I know I sometimes get insecure.
Were you really hanging out with that girl like yesterday?
Well,
like
that's the difference. I think lying about what you did and lying about how you feel. I feel like we make a distinction between those two things.
Yeah.
And lying about how you feel, you're like, oh, I feel different things at different times,
Mm-hmm.
But like actions are pretty concrete. Like you either hung out with that girl
or you
didn't. But emotions, I think we feel are a little more like gray and in between. But I don't know. I know I have like my own insecurities, and I wonder if people have lied to me before about it. Because you're like, I don't know. Do
you really think I'm pretty?
Yeah, I've never said that, but yeah. Well, you have things like that. I don't know. You have various things like that. So he says that he just like says one line and gets it over with, and I can't do that. I don't know about you. I can't like tell the little lie.
Well, I think the times I lie. Now, I used to have my fair share of lying. Like, I did a lot of experimenting with lying. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Like, I like to be a little manipulative at times in the past, just to see how far I could push it.
White lies, or were you trying to get people to do things?
No, like white lies.
So you're like telling the person at Jamba Juice that your name isn't what it actually is.
Yeah, or just like tell someone I lived in Argentina for 3 years or something like that.
I haven't been to Jamba Juice in forever, by the way.
I just went there a few days ago.
Yeah, you did?
It was alright.
Yeah.
But anyways,
yeah.
Like, I feel like little white lies in some scenarios are almost like you conserving your energy. It's just like you're like.
Do anything that catches up to you?
Well, it depends on the context once again, but there's a difference in my opinion. Is like you meet someone on the street, or you're like having a bus conversation with someone, and all of a sudden they bring up like moral political objections to Democrats, and like you believe you're a Democrat and your stuff, and you just don't want to deal with that at that moment. So you're like, I'm a Republican too, dude. Just like relax, like it's all good. And that's kind of like a lie to avoid a conflict.
Yeah, my friend would always. When I was back my younger years, which means like 1 year ago, but I had this really drunk conversation with him about lying and about how I was like, you should always tell the truth. He's like, what if you're on your deathbed? Or like, what if you're on your deathbed with your loved one,
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta tell them, like, let's name a horrible situation. Your wife is on her deathbed, and your kid, and she's gonna die in a day, and then your kid just dies. Like, you don't tell him, that happened.
No.
Like, where is he? Oh, he's playing or something.
He doesn't want to see his wife.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Lying is.
It's a tricky one.
I find it really hard to lie. I'm really bad at lying.
Well, I feel like
I'm the worst liar. I got pulled. Okay, do you know I got pulled over by like a year ago, and I had been drinking, and I had been drinking like way earlier in the night. And when you're younger, you think like, oh, I just tell the truth and like they'll be cool with it,
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy's like, oh, how many beers have you had? I'm like, 4. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna arrest you. I was like, oh shit, you know? So that wasn't good. But yeah, so I think I don't know.
Then you were sober.
What?
But then he didn't arrest you.
No, dude, he did. He did because I had a panic attack when I was taking the sobriety test, so he thought I was like fucked up.
Well, see, I almost have the opposite problem. I don't know if it's because of my roots in culture, like Italian culture or something. But like when I tend to be confronted, especially with authority, and they ask me something, I always like my first instinct is to lie. It's just like, do you know how fast you were going, sir? It's like, no, I don't. Like my speedometer read 60.
Yeah, I think people have very different values about lying. I don't know what the Italian culture is on lying.
It's much more relaxed.
I mean, they lie. They lie and then they get caught and they're like, oh shit. You know, they're not like, oh, I shouldn't have lied. They're like, I shouldn't have gotten caught.
Exactly.
You know, I feel
well, like me and my like parents always had an understanding, for example, that like they really didn't give a shit if I like cheated in school or something. Not to say that I ever cheated in school, but but like the important thing is I didn't get caught. Like they're like, which is kind of smart. Like if you don't get caught, then you're fine with it.
But the intention, you know. I feel like you gotta go by the intention.
Well, but see, by lying, when I lied, for example, cheating in school, it's because I had different principles. I'm like, this information is useless to me, and it's useless for me to actually write this 3-page paper of nonsense. So I'm gonna cheat to stand up to the authority. Okay. I never really lied to get away with stuff. I always lied out of principle. No, whether that makes any sense to you or not.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I don't cheat in school mainly because I find it pointless. Because I actually do want to learn from. I take classes that I want to learn from. So I'm like, I might just like get a bad. I don't know. I just don't see the point. And I know people who do cheat, and sometimes I'm like, oh, it's disgusting. But then I think about it, they just don't care about it. So they just want to do that. That's fine, I guess. But
well, no, like the only time I've never really cheated in college. It's just like because in college most classes it's like I want to learn it, like, and so I just do it to learn it, and I've kind of stopped giving a shit about my grades, to be honest. It's like if I learn it, I learn it.
It's important.
If I don't, like, and I get a bad grade, but I still learn something, that's better than if I get a good grade and don't learn. Yeah. You see, it's just like, to me, college now is about learning. It's not about getting a good grade so I can get a good internship and then get a good job.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think. I don't know about your value structure, and this is kind of like why I wanted to do this podcast is because I was thinking about what makes me happiest. It's like getting a good grade. I like getting a good grade. Like that's good. I think it's more because if it comes from like a teacher I respect or something like that, I'm like, oh yeah, I really worked hard on that. And it's like it's good to see that like it's not like the A, but it's like or whatever the grade is. It's like that they respond to your ideas, you know. I was thinking about like different things that make people happy, you know, like promotions or something. I've never been promoted, but I feel like that would make people happy, you know. And one of the things that makes me really happy is when I have a great conversation with someone. I'm just so happy, dude. Like someone I never really thought I would have a conversation with. I'm like, I'm so happy. Or when someone comes to me and they're like, I was thinking about the conversation we had, and it spurred me to do this and that. And I'm like, that is fucking awesome. Like not because it was me, but because like that. You know, I think that shit is so fucking cool.
Because it's just like you're getting connected to someone else, like, and it's a true connection.
Yeah, and to some other, not even like the person, but like to an idea. And that it's not. You don't even have to accept the idea, but that it went through your head and that you judged it and you like. It's like a practice, dude. Yeah, it's so cool. Like I remember I gave someone a Joe Rogan podcast on psychedelics, and they really didn't know much about psychedelics, and I talked to them a little bit about it, and they were like kind of impulse against it, and like they're still like pretty against it, but they listened to the whole 3-hour thing, and they were like, yeah, this guy was psycho, this thing was psycho, but like this was kind of cool, and they talked to one of their friends about it who never probably considered any of this stuff, and they had a big conversation about it, you know, and like that's so cool, dude.
And that's like cool stuff because it's like now like, a lot of people you meet are just like so close-minded and focused on their ideas, and it's like as soon as like you talk to them about something or try to challenge them, but not in an aggressive way. They get super defensive and they're like, no.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's, I don't know, but sometimes they open up.
Yeah, and when they open up, it's extremely rewarding.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even need to be like an open up to your idea. Just like give my idea a chance. Like,
and I'll give yours a chance, and like we'll talk about various different things. But that's the thing, we're going back to alcohol and stuff. A lot of people I had a great drunk conversation. I had a great conversation when I was high. Like, thinking only occurs when they get fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I don't know.
But that's not. That thinking is skewed in my opinion. It can't be like the truest of the true. Like, some people are like, drunk people are the most honest, and they might be the most like blatantly honest about things, but their thoughts, I don't think their thoughts are honest.
Yeah, I don't know if honesty is saying everything, you know?
It's definitely, I don't
Considering
think
how fickle our emotions are, you know, you say one thing one moment and then you regret it later. Was that honesty at the time?
Exactly. And you know, like, being drunk is a depressant, so maybe you feel super down on an emotion and you exaggerate it. And
then you drink more.
And then you drink more, and then you tell people about how sad and depressed you are, when in fact, when you're like actually like not that bad.
Yeah.
So it can really like skew the way you think as like a human.
But that's why we do it. I mean, we're always. It's just interesting that we alter our consciousness so much.
It's like we have a drive, and yet a fear to like about the unknown.
I mean, yeah, dude. No, okay, yes, fuck yes. No, it's so true. It's like, because if your whole life, if you knew everything that was gonna happen, it would be totally boring. But if like you didn't know when you stepped out of bed if gravity was gonna work, that would be crazy.
Yeah,
that'd be some crazy shit. But I kind of want to go back to the independence thing for a second. We were talking about like independence of thought and all that stuff, and this guy kind of made, I don't know if he made this point or if I deduced it from the book. I think he made the point, but like, if everyone really was independent thinking and everyone fought resistance with all their might and succeeded, maybe like 1% of the time more than they do now, you know, there would be so many institutions that would be fucked. You know, think about like the medical institution, because he talks about ill health and he says that basically things like depression and ADD and anxiety are like created by, like, they're like kind of excuses that we create and like we manifest in our body as ways to like not do things, you know, like I'm depressed so I can't get a job, I'm depressed so I can't be a writer or something, you know, like I'm hurt so I can't be on the field, you know, or like all those different things. And I've definitely experienced a lot of them. I know after my meditation course my body felt fucking amazing, and so I think that, and like you have people that just rely on you feeling incompetent, like you can't you're not the solution to your own problems, you know what I mean? That's what a lot of our stuff is fucking founded on, is that you're not enough. That's what everything is.
You need drugs, you need like
clothes.
medication,
you need a diet, you know, and like that you don't have the power whatsoever. So we're trying to give the power back to the people.
And that's what to clarify, I don't think you're trying to say that like depression and stuff like that isn't like a real feeling that people experience, because it's super easy to like get into it and then it sucks. It's like a vortex that spirals you downward.
Dude, it's a vicious cycle of victimhood, dude. Because you feel like everything's kind of stacked against you. Like the deck is stacked against you. Like maybe your family's had something like that, or you have people around you that are kind of bringing you down, and that's all valid. And that's what he says in the book. It's like all these excuses, they're valid. But they don't mean shit.
Exactly, but it's completely driven by the way we work today, like by the way everything functions and all these expectations that we've set ourselves as a human race, really.
Yeah, but we're gonna fix these one podcast at a time.
Indeed.
And you guys are all gonna listen, and you're gonna tell all your friends, because that's what the rabbit hole's all about, sending people down rabbit holes, you know? So go down, you hear one thing you thought was interesting, go fucking scope it out, do it right now. Because you just gotta do it. That's what we did. I got an idea. I was like, I want to do a podcast next day. Call up my friend, and we're podcasting every day, nearly.
Yep, almost.
You just gotta fucking do it, and that's the only way you can learn.
And you follow that, and maybe something else will pop up.
Yeah, dude, and totally unintentional too. That's the thing, is that most of you're gonna go after one thing, and you're gonna find something else, and then you're gonna have that one thing, and it's gonna motivate you to do one thing, and then you're gonna find something else.
Exactly.
You know? And then even if you find that one thing that you were going afterwards, I'm going to let you know a secret. It's going to be totally fucking different than what you thought it was going to be.
Which makes it good.
Which makes it good, exactly, dude. excitement is totally founded in the unknown.
Yep.
And fulfillment too. So, we hope this fulfilled you.
This was Mad Fish here.
And Joker. We'll see you guys, I don't know when, soon.
Next time.
Maybe tomorrow, I don't know. Yeah. Alright, peace out.
Curiosity often leads to trouble.